Good morning, dear students. So let us start our next semester, that is S4, with this organic reaction mechanism. And also in this semester, I will be taking the two modules, that is reaction mechanism part 1 and part 2. So you have to study in detail the reaction mechanisms going on in organic chemistry. So let us start with the definition for organic chemistry. See, organic chemistry means it is the study of organic compounds, isn't it? Study of organic compounds, or it is the study of hydrocarbons. It is the study of hydrocarbons. The hydrocarbons means they are carbon and hydrogen containing compounds. Apart with this carbon and hydrogen, there will be other elements present, that is nitrogen, sulfur, oxygen, etc. will be there. Mainly organic chemistry, it is dealing with the study of carbon and hydrogen compounds, or simply we can say that it is the study of carbon compounds. Now let us move on to the major topic, that is the reaction mechanism. Reaction mechanism. So here reaction mechanism means, normally while we are studying this reactions, different organic reactions, we will be seeing some of the bonds will be broken, isn't it? There are single bond, double bond as well as triple bonds in these compounds, and the compounds with single bonds, they are called as the saturated compounds. That all you have studied in your plus 2 itself, or I think it will be starting from the 9th standard itself, the study of organic compounds. And also those compounds which are having single bonds, they are called as the saturated compounds, and those compounds with double as well as triple bonds, they are called as unsaturated compounds. Okay, those compounds with single bonds, they are saturated compounds, and those with double bonds as well as triple bonds, they are called as unsaturated compounds. So here, while a reaction is going on, what happens is that some of the bonds will be broken, isn't it? Some of the bonds will be broken and some new bonds will be formed. Okay, so, one bond will be broken and a new bond will be formed. And also in such cases there will be some order for this reaction also, that is some reactions will be zero order, some reactions will be first order, then second order, then third order, like that. So many orders for these reactions are also there. And also while this bond breaking and bond making is going on, some intermediates will also be formed there. Some reaction intermediates will be formed there. And also these intermediates, they are highly unstable also. They are highly unstable. These intermediates will be highly unstable also. And also the energies, we will be dealing with the energies of the products as well as the intermediates also there, isn't it? So many processes are going on while a chemical reaction is going on, isn't it? So here, while a chemical reaction is going on, what are the things taking place? Some bond breaking and bond making will be taking place, and we will be dealing with the order of the reaction, say zero, first order, second order, third order, etc. And again, in some cases or in some reactions, the intermediates will be formed there, and these intermediates, they are highly unstable, so that they will be giving back the products, isn't it? They will be forming the products. And also there we will be dealing with the energies as well. Okay, so the overall study of these things, we can say it as the reaction mechanism, or the steps involved during the formation of a product in an organic reaction. That is what is called as this reaction mechanism. That is the steps involved during the chemical reaction. That is called as the reaction mechanism. Okay, so there are so many steps. You had studied this nucleophilic substitution reaction, SN1 and SN2, isn't it? There are steps involved. In SN1 there will be 2 steps, and in SN2 it is a single step reaction. And also in a single step reaction an intermediate is formed there, isn't it? So the study of such type of reactions, or the steps involved in the organic reactions, it is called as a reaction mechanism. Okay, so let us see some of the electron movements. Okay, normally these electron movements are represented with the help of different types of arrows. Electron movements. Normally these electron movements, they are represented by different types of arrows, and you have to study these arrows in detail. In the last year examination, it is asked the different types of arrows in section C part. In the section C part, that is for 4-mark question, it is asked. Okay, so this electron movements is also important. And also normally in a chemical reaction, while we are using a simple arrow, this type of arrow, what is the representation? It is used to show the direction of a particular chemical reaction, isn't it? That is both the reactants, that is suppose A plus B giving products. That means here this reactants will be combining to form the product. So this reaction, it is in this direction, that is in the forward direction. So this type of arrow indicates the direction of a chemical reaction. Okay. Then another arrow, that is the second one. That is a curved arrow. Curved arrow. Okay. So the movement of electrons, normally in organic reactions, the movement of electrons, it is represented by this curved arrows. That is, see for example, CH3, CH, single bond CH2, single bond CH, double bond CH2. Okay, so this is an unsaturated compound. This is having a double bond, isn't it? This is 1-butene, isn't it? 1-butene. This compound is 1-butene. That is this is the first carbon atom. Then second one, third one, fourth one, isn't it? So here, if we are representing the pi electron pair, so this is a pi electron pair, this double bond, this is a sigma bond and this is the pi bond, and this pi bond, while we are showing an arrow that shows that this pi electron is shifted towards this carbon atom. Okay, so I am representing this pi electron pair, that is the shift like this one, by using a curved arrow, that is the shift of this pi electron to the first carbon atom. Okay, so what happens is that when this pi electron pair, it is shifted to this carbon atom will be getting which charge? It will be getting a negative charge, and for this carbon, it is losing an electron, so it will be having a positive charge. Okay, so that I can represent this particular electron shift like this, that is CH3, CH2, then single bond CH, then single bond CH2. This pi electron, it is shifted towards the first carbon atom, so that the first carbon will be getting a negative charge with an electron pair, and the second carbon will be getting a positive charge. Okay, so this curved arrow, it represents the electron pi electron pair shift. Okay, and also see this head of the arrow, that means this is the head portion of the arrow. This head portion indicates to which carbon or to which atom the electron moves. Okay, head region, that is this part shows, this arrow mark shows to which carbon atom this electron moves, to which atom the electron moves. That represents this head portion, and also the tail portion indicates the from which region the electron pair moves. This is the tail portion, this is the tail part, and this is the head part. So the tail part indicates from which portion the electron moves. From which portion the electron moves. Okay, so this is the head part and this is the tail part. So this is about the curved arrow. Okay, then the next one, that is the half-headed arrow. Half-headed arrow. So these are two half-headed arrows. Two half-headed arrows. See here, for example, hydrogen molecule H, single bond H. So this is a homogeneous molecule, isn't it? Or it is here the bond breaking will be taking place in a homolytic fashion. That is, if this sigma bond it is broken, what happens? A bond, it is formed by two electrons, isn't it? Two electrons constitute a bond, and also when this bond breaks, what happens? One of the electron will be moving to this hydrogen atom, and the second electron will be moving to this hydrogen atom. So here we have to represent this type of electron shift by using this half-headed arrow. Okay, so this arrow, it is called as a half-headed arrow. Half-headed arrow. Okay. So the movement of a single electron, it is represented by a half-headed arrow. Movement of a single electron, it is represented by this half-headed arrow. And also the head portion indicates to as in the previous case, that is the head portion indicates to which atom the electron moves. Okay, the tail portion indicates from which position the atom is moving. Okay, so here this electron, suppose this is H1 and this is H2, one of the electron will be moving to H2 and one of the electron will be moving to H1, so that we will be having two free electrons, isn't it? Or two free radicals. So here we have got one hydrogen free radical, H1 free radical and H2 free radical. Okay, H1 and H2, this is the names of the two hydrogens, not H2 molecule. It is hydrogen free radical. Okay, H1 and H2. H1 and H2. So here we have got hydrogen with a single electron, isn't it? So hydrogen dot or a hydrogen with a single electron, it is called as a free radical or a hydrogen free radical. Okay, so here we have got two hydrogen free radicals. So this is the case of half-headed arrow. Then the next one, that is the double-headed arrow. Double-headed arrow. So here this double-headed arrow, usually it is used for representing this resonating structures. Double-headed arrow, it is used for representing resonating structures. So here normally, for example, in the case of benzene ring, you had written sometimes this resonating structures of benzene ring. This is one structure of benzene ring, and again this is the next structure, that is the bond will be changing, the double bond will be changing the positions. Then the third one, it will be like this, the third resonating structure of benzene. Then the fourth resonating structure of benzene, it will be like this, that is almost diagonally. Then the next resonating structure, that is like this. Okay, so these are the resonating structures of benzene. So these resonating structures usually we are representing by this double-headed arrow. Double-headed arrow. So this arrow, it is called as a double-headed arrow. Double-headed arrow. Okay. So the different resonating structures are represented by a double-headed arrow. So here we had got three different types of arrow. The first one, it is a straight arrow. It shows the direction of the reaction. Then second one, curved arrow. It represents the to which atom the electron pair is moving. Then the half-headed arrow, there a movement of single electron is representing, and by the double-headed arrow, it represents the different resonating structures. Then some other arrows which are normally used, that is the first one, it is like this. This type of arrow, it indicates the dipole moment. Indicates the dipole moment. Then the next type of arrow, that is like this. In the middle is the arrow mark. Okay, so this type of arrow, it represents the inductive effect. Inductive effect, this you have to study in detail, inductive effect. Then the next type of arrow that you all know, that is the reversible arrow, that indicates the equilibrium of a chemical reaction. It represents the equilibrium of a chemical reaction. So these are some other arrows. Okay, dipole moment, then inductive effect, then equilibrium. Okay. So next is we can go through the homolytic and heterolytic bond fissions. I think up to this you are clear. It's a very simple portion. Homolytic and heterolytic bond fission. Sorry for the noises going on here. There is another meeting, Google Meet is going on. So please excuse me. Homolytic and heterolytic bond fission. Okay. So homolytic fission and heterolytic fission. Normally in organic chemistry we had seen, been dealing with covalent bonds in the case of organic chemistry. Okay. covalent bonds in organic chemistry. And covalent bonds mainly they are of three types: a single bond, double bond, and a triple bond will be there. Okay. And also, see, while a bond is broken, that is, suppose if a sigma bond it is broken, it can be carried out in two different ways. That means a bond it is formed by sharing of two electrons, isn't it? If this bond is broken, what happens is that sometimes both the electron pair or this particular bond will be broken down equally, or it will be having asymmetric bond fission. That means the two electron pair, that is the two electrons will be equally distributed among the two atoms. Suppose this is AA, a molecule A2. Okay, if this particular bond is broken, the two electrons they are shared equally by these two atoms A. Okay, so this type of bond fission, bond breaking means, breaking of a bond means it is the another term for breaking, it is called as fission. Okay, bond fission means it is the breaking of a particular bond. Okay, so here this type of bond breaking, that is called as a homolytic bond fission. Homolytic fission. Fission means breaking of a bond. So homolytic fission means if a bond is broken and the two electrons are equally distributed among the two atoms, it is called as a homolytic bond fission, or we can simply say the phenomenon as homolysis. Okay, homolytic fission or homolysis. And also here, suppose hydrogen molecule. Hydrogen molecule, it is a homogeneous molecule. That means two similar atoms are there, two same atoms are there, isn't it? For example, HH. Here, these are the two atoms are the same, so there is no electronegativity difference between the two atoms. So what happens is that while this bond is broken, one of the electron will be moving to the one hydrogen atom and another electron will be moving to the second hydrogen atom, so that we will be having two hydrogen free radicals, H dot. We had already seen this particular reaction, isn't it? So here two hydrogen free radicals are formed. Okay, so these are the hydrogen free radicals, and this type of bond fission, that is called as the homolytic bond fission. That means the shared pair of electrons, are equally distributed between the two atoms. The shared pair of electrons are equally distributed between the two atoms. So this type of bond fission, it is called as homolytic bond fission or homolysis. And also here, what is the result or what are the products obtained here? We will be having free radicals. Okay. So as a result of homolytic bond fission, we will be having free radicals, H dot. Okay. Here the two atoms are having the same electronegativity. Okay. For homolytic bond fission, when the two atoms are joined by the covalent bond having nearly the same electronegativity, if the two atoms are having the same electronegativity, then a homolytic bond fission will be occurring. Okay, so these are the 3 points you have to keep in mind. So sometimes this homolytic and heterolytic bond fission will be asked in B part question, that is for 2 marks. So you have to write these points. Along with that, you have to write the equation also. Okay. And also normally this homolytic bond fission, it will be carried out in the presence of heat or light. Usually it will be carried out in the presence of heat or light or organic peroxides. Organic peroxides. Okay. So this is the first case of bond fission, that is homolytic bond fission. Then the second one, that is the heterolytic bond fission. Heterolytic bond fission. Heterolytic bond fission or heterolysis. Heterolytic bond fission or heterolysis. See here, if two different atoms, that is if two atoms if two atoms with different electronegativities are there, suppose AB or suppose HCl molecule. See here, what about the electronegativity? Chlorine is highly electronegative when compared with that of hydrogen. So what happens is that here when this bond is broken, what happens? This electron pair, it will be completely shifted towards this chlorine atom, isn't it? So here the bond breaking or the bond fission will be taking place such that the shared pair of electrons will be unequally distributed between these two atoms. Okay, the shared pair of electrons are unequally distributed between these two atoms. So such type of bond fission, it is called as heterolytic bond fission, since these two atoms are having electronegativity difference. So here the electron pair is completely shifted to chlorine atom. So chlorine is receiving this electron pair. Therefore chlorine will be getting a negative charge and hydrogen will be getting a positive charge. Okay, so here the products will be H plus and Cl minus. Okay, and those species having a positive charge, it is called as a cation, and those species having a negative charge, it is called as an anion. Okay, so this is the case of heterolytic bond fission. So the points to be considered here are, so suppose if AB, it is an it is having, these two atoms are having different electronegativities, what happens? A plus and B minus. This is also an example for a heterolytic bond fission. Okay, so here heterolysis. So here the shared pair of electrons, are unequally distributed. The shared pair of electrons are unequally distributed between the bonded atoms. Okay. So this type of bond fission, it is called as heterolytic bond fission. So what about the products here? The formed species are cations and anions, isn't it? So we will be obtaining a charged species as the product. Charged species are obtained as the product. Charged species means they will be cations and anions. The charged species will be cations and anions. Okay. So these are the two types of bond fission, homolytic bond fission and heterolytic bond fission. Okay. Next we can go through some of the different types of reagents used in organic chemistry. Okay. Types of reagents. See here, the different types of reagents, they are mainly classified into two categories. The first one, that is the electrophiles. Electrophiles or the electrophilic reagents. Electrophiles or the electrophilic reagents. And the second category, that is the nucleophiles or nucleophilic reagents. Nucleophiles or nucleophilic reagents. Electrophiles and nucleophiles. So these are the two different class of reagents in case of organic compounds. So we have to go through one by one. The first one, that is the electrophilic reagents or the electrophiles. Electrophilic reagents or electrophiles. See here, these electrophiles, they are normally they are represented by E plus. Okay, this sign you should remember, that is E plus. You should keep in mind. You should never forget it. Okay, so with this E plus itself, you can define an electrophile. Okay, E plus means here it is having a positive charge. So what is the indication of a positive charge? See, a positive charge means it will be deficient in electrons, isn't it? So the first point to be noted down in the case of electrophiles is that they are deficient in electrons. They are deficient in electrons. And also, what happens to a species which is deficient in electron? What is its capacity? It can accept a pair of electrons from the substrate or from the reagent, isn't it? So it can accept a pair of electron from the substrate. Can accept a pair of electron from the substrate. So that is the peculiar feature of this electrophile. Electrophile is a charged species having a positive charge, and it is deficient in electrons, and also it can accept electron pairs. Or normally these electrophiles, they are Lewis acids, or they are electron pair acceptors. They are electron pair acceptors, or we can say that they are Lewis acids. They are Lewis acids. Okay. So this electrophile, the term electrophile means it is electron loving. Phile means philic. Normally the term philic means it will be loving, isn't it? That the word meaning itself shows that it is loving. Then phobic means it is hating, isn't it? Or phobic means it is having a fear or hating. That is the word meaning of philic and phobic. So philic means loving. So electrophilic means it will be electron loving. Okay, electron loving. Philic means it is electron loving. That means it will be having a tendency to accept electrons, or it will be having a positive charge. Okay, so that also you have to note it down. That is, they are electron loving species. So it will be attacking which type of centers? It will be attacking high electron density centers, isn't it? It will be attacking negative centers. It will be attacking negative centers, or it will be attacking high electron density centers. I think in your textbook there is a mistake there. In textbook it is written as electron deficient centers, not electron deficient. It will be attacking high electron density centers, or it will be attacking negative centers. Okay. So that is the meaning of electrophile. So it is a charged species which is deficient in electron. It can accept a pair of electron from the substrate. They are electron pair acceptors or Lewis acids. And also philic, the term means loving. So it is electron loving, and it will be attacking the negative centers. Then these electrophiles, they are of two types. Again, this electrophiles, they are classified into two categories. The first one, that is the positive electrophiles. Positive electrophiles, and the second one, that is the neutral electrophiles. Positive electrophiles and the neutral electrophiles. So here this positive electrophiles means they are deficient in electrons. That is the first point. They are also deficient in electrons, and also positive electrophile means it will be carrying a positive charge. Okay. It will be having a positive charge. And also some of the examples for this positive electrophiles are H+, then Cl+, then Br+, bromonium ion, then NO2+, then NO+, then CH3+, then C2H5+. So these are all positive electrophiles. So here these species, they are all deficient in electrons. At the same time, they will be carrying a positive charge. Chloronium ion, bromonium ion, nitronium ion, etc. Then alkyl, methyl ion, then ethyl ion, etc. So these are all positive electrophiles. Okay. So here they will be having a positive charge, and also they are deficient in electrons. Then the second category, that is the neutral electrophiles. See, neutral electrophile means they are also deficient in electrons. They are also deficient in electrons, but they do not carry a positive charge. They do not have a positive charge. So such type of such species, we can call it as neutral electrophiles. That means they are deficient in electrons but do not have a positive charge. For example, BF3. Boron trifluoride, they are electron deficient, BF3. Okay, then AlCl3, aluminium trichloride, AlCl3, then zinc chloride, then FeCl3. So these species are all, they are neutral electrophiles. That means they are electron deficient, but they had got no positive charge. Okay. So these are some of the examples for neutral electrophiles. So I hope you are clear with these two categories of electrophiles, positive electrophile and neutral electrophile. You have to study the examples also. Okay. Then the second category, that is the nucleophilic reagents. Nucleophilic reagents or nucleophiles. Nucleophilic reagents or nucleophiles. See here, nucleophiles normally it is denoted by this term Nu minus. Okay, you have to keep this in mind. For electrophile it is E plus and for nucleophile it is Nu minus. These two terms we should never forget. E plus, Nu minus. Okay. So here nucleophiles it is represented by Nu minus, and also negative charge itself means it is electron rich, isn't it? It is having electrons. So these nucleophiles, they are rich in electrons. That is the first point. In electrophile they are deficient. Nucleophiles, they are rich in electrons. That means they will be having an unshared pair of electrons. They will be having an unshared pair of electrons. And also they have the capacity to donate a pair of electrons. They have the capacity to donate a pair of electrons. They have the capacity to donate a pair of electrons to the substrate. They have the capacity to donate a pair of electrons to the substrate or to the attacking species. Okay. So here this nucleophiles, again phile, the word phile means it is loving, isn't it? So nucleophile means it is nucleus loving. It is nucleus loving. Nucleophile, that is nucleus loving. And also since it is nucleus loving, that means it will be attacking regions of low electron density, isn't it? It will be attacking regions of low electron density. It attacks regions of low electron density. That means it will be attacking positive sites. It will be attacking positive sites. Since it is having a negative charge, it will be attacking positive sites. Again this nucleophile. So these are the definitions for a nucleophile. Nucleophile means they are rich in electron or they are having unshared pair of electron. Then the second point, they can donate pair of electrons. Then phile means loving. So nucleophile means it is nucleus loving. Then they will be attacking low electron density regions, and also that means it will be attacking the positive sides of a substrate or positive centers of a substrate. Then again these nucleophiles, they are classified into two categories. Just as in the case of electrophiles, again nucleophiles are also classified into two categories. That is the first one, that is the negative nucleophiles. Negative nucleophiles, and the second one, that is the neutral nucleophiles. Neutral nucleophiles. Okay. So negative nucleophile means they are rich in electrons. Again, they are rich in electrons, and also what is the other peculiarity? It will be having a negative charge. Carries a negative charge. So that is the peculiarity of a negative nucleophile, rich in electron and carries a negative charge. Then you have to go through some of the examples of this negative nucleophiles. That is Br minus, Cl minus, then I minus, Cn minus, bromide, chloride ion, bromide ion, iodide ion, then cyanide ion, then OH minus, hydroxyl ion, then amide ion, NH2 minus, then RO minus, etc. So these are some of the examples for this negative nucleophile. That means they are rich in electrons as well as they will be carrying a negative charge also. Okay. Then the next is the neutral nucleophile. Hope you are clear with this negative nucleophile. No need of more explanation, I think. Okay. Then neutral nucleophile. This neutral nucleophiles again, they are also rich in electrons. That is the first point. They are also rich in electrons, but they do not carry a negative charge. They do not have a negative charge. They do not have a negative charge. They have got an unshared pair of electrons, but they will not be having a negative charge. Example, water molecule H2O. Then ammonia, NH3, they are electron rich but do not have a negative charge. Then RSH, sulfur, it has got 2 lone pair of electrons, 1 2 1 2. Okay. Then alcohol, ROH, here also oxygen is having a pair of electron, lone pair of electron. Okay. Then a tertiary amine, R3N, this is also having a lone pair of electron but do not have a negative charge. So these are some of the examples of a neutral nucleophile. Okay. Then I had forgotten to write an equation also. So here this for a negative nucleophile, the reaction will be like this. See, for example, carbon, it is a positive site. To this positive site, a nucleophile will be attacking. Okay, nucleophile will be attacking this positive site, so that the product will be like this, CNU. Okay, so this is a negative nucleophile attacking an electron deficient center. Okay, and in the case of a neutral nucleophile, we can write the similar reaction, that is a positive site or an electron deficient center plus a nucleophile it is attacking, a neutral nucleophile. Neutral nucleophile means it will not be having any negative charge, it will be having only lone pair of electron. Okay, so this electron rich nucleophile, it will be attacking this carbon center, so that the product will be like this, CNU. Okay, CNU, and here this NU will be having a positive charge. Okay, so these are the two types of nucleophiles, negative as well as neutral nucleophile. Hope you are clear with this. So this electron rich position, it will be attacking the electron deficient center, and also at this time this nucleophile will be getting a positive charge. Okay, similarly one reaction is there in the case of this electrophiles also. So I will be writing the equation for this positive electrophile at this position, that is positive electrophile, it will be attacking a carbon which is having high electron density, isn't it? So C negative charge plus E plus, that is a positive electrophile. So this positive electrophile, it will be attacking this electron rich position, so that the product will be like this, CE. Okay, so this equation, it is for a positive electrophile, that also you can represent here. Okay, for a positive electrophile, and then for a neutral electrophile also similar reaction we can write, that is for a neutral electrophile also it will be attacking a carbon, a electron rich carbon, and again a neutral electrophile, that is E. Okay, neutral electrophile, this will be attacking this position, so that what happens, CE, then single bond E. Here a bond is formed here, and this E will be getting a negative charge, that is this electron will be shared to this electrophile, so that this E will be having a negative charge. So this is the equation for a neutral electrophile. Okay, so hope you are clear up to this. So this is regarding the introduction part, and you have to study in detail the different types of organic reactions also, that we can see in our next session, that is different types of organic reactions, that is mainly addition reaction, substitution, then rearrangement reactions and elimination reaction, that you have to study in detail one by one, that we can see in our next session. And also you should write the lecture notes and upload it in classroom also. Okay, thank you.